Let us see how can we build conversational analytics type of application using large language model, or you can say full stack generative AI application, where we'll use all the component of full stack, all the latest and greatest component of full stack, like React as a UI and backend as a like Python, fast API and UICon, database as a MongoDB, AI model. Will use free Google Gemini-Pro API, but you can use anything, like you can use Llama 3 or any other large language model you want to use it. And Docker as a container, so that we can dockerize backend and frontend together. And not only you can develop this thing at locally, you can deploy this thing at cloud also later on. Also, it will have authentication mechanism using custom durability of implementation. So what is conversational analytics? Like what happened, customers gives feedback maybe at some shopping site or any other places, and that feedback may have some information, like it has sentiment, it has some emerging trend, it may have topics, and it may have other information, hidden information that may be used later on for predictive analytics. Like this particular sentiment detection, and you can say like conversational analytics will help later on predictive analytics, where we can get to know like what customer may need later on, maybe in future. So this is important concepts in terms of like developing application, and where GenAI and LLM is also playing a lot of roles. Like we can use directly a large language model to build this application. And I'm just showing how we can develop full stack application using this one, where 80 to 70 to 80% is software development, and only few part of that AI part, some prompt tuning. And I'm not using any agentic based application, simple like prompting and getting it information. So what I'll do, I'll first show how UI looks, so that's easy for you to understand code base also. And with this you can able to connect also, like it will make sense what all things are there in code. When we log, like when we start our application, this is our landing page, login page. So for the sake of understanding, I'll create one user. So I registered one user, and what I'll do, I'll log in with that user. So after login, we'll land into home page. Home page look like this, where it will be showing very simple thing like username and role. We can add many more things. I just, for simplicity's sake, I just keep it simple. And in that one simple part is there, submit your feedback. So what I'll do, I'll submit feedback. There's some feedback where it has mixed type of signal, mixed type of sentiment things are there. I'll submit feedback and submit feedback submitted successfully. So I log out and log in as a Suresh is one admin role who can see analytics and who can see other like feedback information, like again simple functionality. So with the Suresh I log in, and again same page, home page, and I can see analytics. So it is simple interface, it combined everything in one place. I'll keep it separate for different users later on, like I'll make it more advanced part. It is just like simple interface right now. And when user has submitted feedback, with that, like I already submitted certain feedback earlier, so I can see many other information. With that, it can extract information, key topics, overall sentiment, it's all mixed type of signal. When we see that feedback was having certain like mixed type of signal, and what was the emerging trend coming out of that, that is important for predictive analytics. When we go with the feedback part, we can see like I reached out to help with my account, and the support team was very responsive, but I appreciate the quick assistant, but it would be helpful to have more self-service option available. Like it is mixed type signal, positive also and neutral also, that's why it is mixed type of things are there. So with that we can create analytics and feedback. And with this we start seeing the code. Okay, we have this conversational analytics project where we have backend, frontend, and different other information like conversational analytics, like one postman file also I kept it for creating admin user, and readme file that has all the information needed to start your application, to install everything. Like it has all the information. It doesn't have code base explaining code base, but most of things to run your application. And one secret key generation, we'll see what is that secret key generation that is required for authentication authorization part. Docker compose, since we are using dockerization part with backend frontend, so that's why we are keeping docker and docker compose YAML file here. In backend and frontend both will have docker files. So an environment file has all the information like your Google API key, your MongoDB URI, secret keys for authentication, Google API key for LLM, MongoDB for your database part. So let us quickly go to our backend part. Backend part has two main code, auth.py, docker file, and main.py. Auth.py, main.py, two main code bases there. Docker file is for dockerization. When virtual environment we don't need, because like we are running in Docker, so it will create automatically internally and run it. So quickly go to auth.py. Auth.py has all the information related to your password authentication mechanism. Since we are using JWT token like Json Web Token, so we will see all the code base related to Json Web Token only here. And MongoDB URI is like getting it from environment file. MongoDB URI is there. With that we are getting MongoDB URI. With that we are creating Mongo client and user authentication DB creating, so that we can store user password, hashed password, not like plain password. And secret key we'll get it from .environment file, and with this secret key generation py we can generate secret key. We'll see this one. That is required when we create token. So algorithm is like since we are using Json Web Token, it requires algorithm. When we dissect Json Web Token, that time we can see all this information like algorithm, what are the expiry time and other information. So I'll just show also that like how it looks Json Web Token. So this is HS256 algorithm is there. Access token expired time is 30 minutes there. Given user role, and user role, it has two user role, like one user and admin. That's what we see earlier in UI also. And password context, like since we are using hashed password, so we are hashing it like with the crypto bcrypt, we are using it to hash the password, and it is required to match also, like when user logged in, that time it gives plain password and it get converted into hashed, and it checked at database it is stored as hash. It check with like hash to hash and then match, then that's what gives you like a privilege to enter into system. OAuth, like since you're using token like bearer token, like you can say JSON Web Token, OAuth is one of the library that can be used to integrate this type of like token type of system. And all this code base like verify password, get password, authenticate user, create access token, everything is related to your password authentication mechanism. So before going into that, we'll go to main.py file. It will be easy for you to understand, like make sense with the main.py. In main.py we have, like since we are using Python and fast API UVCon, Python as a backend, fast API for your REST API call, and UVCon to start like local, you can say REST type of server where you can connect to Python and get the information. And LangChain related code where that we are keeping like Google Gemini-Pro related libraries. You can use any other LLM, it is up to you. So Pydantic is like authentication is basically your all this code like functions what is needed here. It is, since we are going to use main is your main bucket, okay, you can say main store where every like backend logic is there. So all this code whatever there in auth.py, it will be used inside main.py. And we are loading environment, since we are creating fast API like REST API call using fast API, so creating instance of that, adding middleware like a CORS, like since your front end is in React and backend is in Python, it need to connect, and it is in two different domain. So when front end send any request to backend, if you don't enable CORS, so at that time what happens is that's what it is called, so it will be blocked. So we are enabling any request coming from localhost 3000, that is our front end UI. It should allow, like allow all the method, get, post, all things are there, headers, anything is there. Same way MongoDB URI we have seen in auth.py, and creating client and one sentiment DB we are creating it. For user authentication we have different DB. For sentiment, like keeping all this information in sentiment, we are keeping this here. And Mongo we are not installing it local laptop, we are creating one image in Docker, so we are using, you can create whatever way you want to do it, like if you are in local you can configure that one in Docker file. We'll see that one also. So secret key is having like again from environment, since we need here Google API key is also required because that is what main.py is for main call. Pydantic is for a validation part, and user like user class, username, password, role, these all things are required, like it is abstraction of code, so that when we use code we can pass simply user and we get all this information. Same way user out means like we want to see this thing in UI, we have seen it in UI. When you logged in, I see user and username and the role, what are the role is there. So that's what with this user out we are able to see this one. Token, like since we are creating JSON Web Token, so that is what required. Feedback submission, when you submit feedback, feedback timestamp, analytic response, topic, sentiment, trend, that's what we seen it. Feedback response, current, historical, that's what we have seen it also earlier. These all things code are related to creating it like UI part, sending things to UI, and UI can see this one, showcase this one. Creating LLM through chat, Google generative AI, and we did this thing multiple times earlier. It's simple, like model Gemini-Pro, you can use 1.5 also, like instead of Gemini-Pro you can use Gemini-1.5-Pro. I'll just give things like this particular line in my description, YouTube description. And some prompt template, output parser, Pydantic output parser we are creating it, so that whenever we are getting any response, that should be validated for any syntax, any other things whatever needed. Like in Pydantic we are given certain information, you can change, you can give simple, you can get simple response, don't give any output parser, okay. This is LangChain related part. And analyze prompt, like we are getting one prompt template, in that we are giving feedback and creating template, analyze the following customer feedback with this information like key, topic, sentiment, emerging trend. That's what we see in UI. When we log into UI, we have seen it like key topics, overall sentiment, and emerging trend. That's what is coming from your LLM response. And creating one LLM chain where you are passing LLM and prompt. So analyze chain is basically used later on in our code. So first thing, like we are seeing when we register our user, register user is basically when we call from UI register, it calls this slash register and it comes here. It has like a user object and it has like a admin key. In case we are creating admin user we can't create through UI, register UI, because it required your secret key. Admin is required, you can't create it like simply. So I just kept it simple, creating through backend. So that's why this admin key is required. We'll see this one also. So with this, like when we registered it, it checked whether it exists. If it exists, throws error. Otherwise, it create has password, and if it is admin key, it create user role as admin to save it into that. Otherwise, it will create user role as a user, and it just save like create one user. And in case of login, when we logged in into system, when you give user and password, that time it comes to token/token, where it authenticate if user authenticate or not, whether that access token is expired or not. Suppose you already logged in and you refresh it, 30 minutes it is there, already token is not expired, 30 minutes is available. So you don't need to log in again. Like you refresh it, it will show because the token is already available to you. So that time it doesn't need to log in again, authenticate again. It just check token. And in case it is expired, it checks your access token. It create access token. It create one access token, that is durability token. That durability, like your Json Web Token, is basically created with create access token, and that's what we have seen it earlier in this particular auth.py. Auth.py is having like you're sending data, and when we did data, we are passing like expired date, like we are giving it right now, okay. And with that, after that 30 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever we are giving it, and encoding it like expire. After this one, data.get role and import durability. With durability is one particular library, you can see here, import durability. With that, we are creating one token. That token is used across your application when user logged in. Suppose I given 30-minute timeout, like expired time, up to 30 minutes, you can still refresh. You can refresh your home page, anything. It will not ask for your username and password again, because that is available. When it is expired, then it will again ask username and password and create new token. That's what like create access token part is there. And that's what this particular part is there. This particular logic is there in particular slash token part. And after logged in, it shows like user me means like user slash me means like showing user name and role. And that's what we see it here. When we go to home, username, role, we are seeing with this particular slash user slash me. In case of admin, okay, in case of slash admin, it will be showing it like admin username and password. In case of simple user, it will be going into user slash me, and this one. We need certain information in case of admin. That's why these things are there, and we are showing menu also based on that role. That's why these things are there. So when user submit feedback, I'm just showing all these things right now backend code, not a front-end code. Like it's just simple backend code. Front-end is different thing, will come there. Front-end, like suppose user submit feedback part, like it goes into app.post app, like a fast API, post like API call, and it gives submission, and it checks also whether user is logged in or not. Like you can't go outside of session and submit it. That's why it checks this one. And with that, it create your it insert into your MongoDB, and later on we can see this later on in your other part, like when admin logged in, analytics we do it. So when there's two things, admin feedback post and feedback get. Get means like we get details. We have seen it here. Feedback details, this particular part. This is get one. And when user logged in, like I shown in Dude, with that Dude user submit feedback, that time it is slash post feedback. So with this slash app.get feedback, we get all the information needed for all this historical and other information. Analytics, like that's what I seen analytics here. I'm just not storing this information, okay. I'm just runtime giving admin like analytics. There are many good way to do this one. This is just to showcasing like how we can create end-to-end full stack application using conversation analytics as a like experimental project. So when analytics user click on analytics here, why it comes here, in this analytics part and get these things where all this part like analyze chain runs, and like it calls a LLM. With that LLM it gets topics, sentiment and trends, and returns as like JSON topics, sentiments and trends. That's what it will be used at your UI to show. Okay, so this is how like when we see in perspective of backend part, like I have shown, like this all get post, all things are done now. And one more thing, like it has Docker file. When we create Docker image, like when we run locally also Docker, so that time it uses the Docker file, Docker compose. So Docker file has like using Python 3.9 cloud active /app, copying this all requirement.txt, running pip install, and then starting uvcon. Okay, I'll just show how we run this like Docker part. So this one Docker file is needed here, so that, and if you want to deploy later on in cloud also in Azure, AWS, any part with this Docker image, you can do very easily. So that's why I kept it here. Now coming back to your front end has like your React. Many people already worked on React, didn't work on that. I suggest like I'll not explain things here, it will be too lengthy here. So I'll just say like it has like one directory structure, like node modules. When we run, we don't need node modules. When we're creating Docker, it automatically internally does this one. So it has public file, what are needed here. When we create a sample project, it does create everything. We don't need to create anything like unnecessary, like package, everything it creates. Only thing, I did use all libraries here in package.json, so you don't need to run separately like npm install to run, use this particular library in this package.json. So you can simply use this particular package.json, package log.json, and it will run perfectly fine. You don't need to separately install it here, copy paste it here. So that's what I need to do this one. You don't need to do this one right now. So, and it has like your src folder. Src folder has like your app.css file, basically main file. It's like you can say container. This container all code related to your main. Like if you see anything whatever is running here, it runs through app.css. And when we see this all logics, all these logics are related to that one only. Like it uses analytics feedback and token, user role, username, whatever things, like some effects you're giving it. Okay, that's why I don't want to get into this particular part. When we logged in, it uses fetch user data, user / me. That's what I shown it, like username, password. When you go to home, it does automatically first time it does things. Okay, later on when we go to like our menu bar, in menu bar we have analytics feedback in case of admin. In case of normal, it will be only feedback, submit feedback. So this app.css is used for that one. And related component, like you have like header file is there, like this header files is in this particular footer, is also there in this particular footer, so you can change accordingly. And your feedback submit form is this particular part, you accordingly if you want to change it the way you want to do it. So all things you can do it here. Feedback display in your like all historical and current part. Analytical display part with this particular things are there. Login home pages for this particular things. Login, private route. Okay, since we are restricting user based on roles, like roles, and also based on whether authenticate or not. So this private route is used for this particular private route is used for this authentication mechanism. Wherever you see like authentication is happening like through UI, UI is restricting. When you logged in as admin, you can see this particular header. When you see like logged in as a user, you see only feedback. That time this private route comes into picture, and it stores your token at local storage so that it can be used. Okay, so that's what private route part is there. And register is like again register page is there. And in that we have one Docker file also. Docker file like we are using like simple the way you did it into backend, where we use Python here, node 14. I'm using it, Web directory app, copying all this thing, npm install, so that all libraries install. So that's why you don't need to run anything npm install or pip install at your local spot. When we run Docker, it will start everything and it does. And when we run our Docker, it will start your backend also, fast API, your REST API server you can say, and another one like your front end also, like your React also. If you see here, serve and 3000, that's what it is used. So most of the part like code part of explaining code part of front end I am skipping, because you can always copy paste in ChatGPT anywhere and get information. It will be too lengthy explaining things here. So this is what like your front end part. Now coming back to important part, I shown you like secret key. If you see secret key here, secret key is generated here. How we generate secret key? When we have one class. With this class, I'll just show here. So when we run this particular class, one secret is generated. This one particular secret is generated. You need to copy the secret in dot environment and then use it accordingly, like later on it will be used from this particular part. So that's what, like when you're creating secret key, use this Python module, this particular code to create your secret key, and that copy it, and it will be unique every time hacks, like it is hexadecimal type things are generated, so it will be unique. It will not generate similar type of key. And in production, what we do it, we keep it in, like when we are using cloud, like suppose AWS, we have KMS, like that, different hubs, vault are there where we're keeping this one and getting this key from that particular location. I just wanted to show here how we can run this thing locally, so that's what it is here. Otherwise it will not be here into your environment file. Same way anything key, it will not be here. It will be used through some key libraries, key vault, where from where it will be secured, and securely you can call and get the information. So this one thing is like one important part is there. One is Docker Composer. Docker Composer is like you are composing backend and frontend. If you see frontend, your frontend Docker file, ports, and your depends on backend. Same backend is having like .backend, Docker file, ports, 8000, and we are giving MongoDB URI here. Since when you run into Docker, it doesn't takes like dot environment. It need to pass through your Docker compose files. So we are accessing this particular MongoDB URI through dot environment and then passing it then into the code. So this MongoDB URI, Google API key, secret key, all this thing from there, and depends on Mongo. So I told like you don't need to install Mongo at your local system. So Mongo can be created like this. Mongo latest, if you see it, it is creating one image inside your Docker. It is running inside Docker. So it is not there, like you can override this one, create your own things, like you can write a compose file where it will be using your local MongoDB, but I found it easy to experiment. And this all things like your Mongo latest 27017, this all things are coming from image and storing it into a Docker image. So this is like one complete integration, you can say completed. You have one backend, one front end, your environment file, you have one like Docker Compose, where you're Docker composing it, your secret key generation. Same way when like Google API key, I created one video where I shown like how can we generate Google API key freely at Google Cloud. So you can watch that one also. With that everything is completed. Now we need to run one command, okay, like Docker command, Docker compose build. So with this Docker compose build, it will start like your backend, front end, everything. It will compile, build, and it will Dockerize and run your system. So one more thing, like Docker, you need to install at your local system. I install at my system Docker part, so it is already running. That's why I can see things here, like it is already running here. I mean, I started Conversation Analytics, I can see green here. When we click, and we can see like we have one Mongo, we have one backend, we have one front end. You can go and see inside also like how it looks. I mean, you want to inspect and all those things. So Docker desktop, you need to install it so that you can work on this one. With this, it is ready to you to run your application. So not much complex part. Now when you create first time admin user, you can't create through this register option. Register option doesn't have admin user creation because its role doesn't have option. So for that, what I did, I created one postman curl command. I given into my readme also. In that I shared this one also, JSON file, postman JSON file. You can download postman and import that particular collection. That collection is here, this collection. When you import into this one, your postman, you can, like it is a given option import. With that import, you can select from where it is there, and then it will show like this. Important thing is you need to change this key what you generated earlier using this particular module, like this particular key. So change this key, one important part, and username password change as per your requirement, and send it. So it will create one admin user with the user admin role, and with that your things are clear. You can log in here, you can register here your user, submit feedback, and what is created using postman, your admin user. With that you can log in as an admin user. Let us quickly understand how authentication authorization system works in this application. So I added loggers in all the places, in main.py, auth.py, in all the Python code, because we are interested in that part only. And in that, like if you see in token and all the functions starting, I added logger, and specifically I added into create access token one logger encoded JWT. I wanted to show how it looks like when it dissect this one. So I have one Docker desktop installed in my system. It is running right now. There is no conversational analytics system here, but I'll start with this command, docker compose a build. This will start our system at like Docker. It start in Docker so that we can access. We can see logs in ID also, and we can see logs in our Docker also. We'll see how we can see this one. Let it start. So I think it is started right now. I can go and just see conversational analytics. It is Mongo is there, and Frontend and Backend is there. We can click Backend and we can see all logs here. Alternatively, we can see logs here. So what I'll do, I'll quickly go there in my UI. There's in UI, I have one user Suresh, and with that I log in and try to trace what all things are happening here. So with this Suresh, I logged in, and when I go to Docker, I can see few things like create access token. So create access token is basically this part main.py, where that I mean, it is before create access token, it is login for access token function calling, like your main code, main function. In that it authenticate, and with authenticate it verify also. So if you can see authenticate and verify, when we go in authenticate user, you can see like it goes to MongoDB, get the user, and from that password also. Password is hashed into database, but when you are sending from your side, it is plain password. So what it does, it convert into hashed and check, and if it verifies, then it is authenticated. When it's authenticated, then it goes into create access token. In create access token, we are sending one data like username and role, and we are sending expiry data also, and with that we are creating it. So when we go to create access token, like we can see here, it goes into create access token, and when it comes here in create access token, we can see data is coming, and we are appending some data like expiry date, role. We are getting some data from main code also, main function, but we are appending it here. And with the JWT one library is there, with that we are encoding. We are sending our data, we are passing secret key. That's what we created using secret key generation.py, and we are keeping this in environment file. But in production grade application, we keep in KMS or some vault, so that it is not easily accessible to anyone. Anybody want to access, they can send a request, and in authorized way they can access it. Since it is like some POC and local application, we are keeping environment file and giving algorithm HS256. That's what we are using it, and we are encoding. So when we go here in Docker and copy this encoded JWT, we can go to jwt.io and paste it and see what are the headers and payload, other information is there. You can add like all these things are there. It doesn't mean like it get verified. It get verified using like signature. So we can see information, but it doesn't get verified. It is just like because we are not passing any secret code here. Like if you see here, it is asking secret code, then only it get verified, and then only you can do authentication, authorization part, authentication, authorization, whatever you want to do it. Here we can see information, but not authenticate, authorize. So when we trace it into our Docker log, we see other part like get current user. Get current user means like after getting this information, we are going into another function where we are decoding token what we got it, and in decode we are passing same secret key. With that it is created an algorithm, otherwise it will not decode it. So we get this with payload, and with that payload we are getting username. We can do more complex stuff, like what happens sometimes one upstream system is there connecting with many downstream system teams. Okay, so they are sending tokens there, and they are authorizing only particular applications to access this token or upstream. So that time we can add it, and we can do more encoding into that, so that it can be accessed to only specific applications. We are not doing that one. It is simplest things we are doing, credential check. And with like all this payload, we can get information and pass it to UI to show like roles and username. So this is like a simple authentication authorization mechanism we can do when we are developing application. It is good way to start. And when you are not using your Docker, you can come to Docker and you can stop it here. You want to delete, you can delete it. You can do Control-C, it will stop it here from here also. And from here also we can see all logs here. We don't need to go to our ID here. If you want to run only through terminal, you can run through terminals only. No need to, when you have all things set up, you don't need to go to ID to start our Docker. You can do through terminals, basic stuff.